Good morning, everyone. How you doing today? Well, I got a little project here that I've been thinking about doing for the last couple of years. Because we don't have any more cookouts anymore, there's no need to have this platform here on the shed, which I'll show you. Originally, when I built this, I wanted this platform here to be open so that people can put a chair or two out here and play horseshoes. And of course, this door would store my snowblower and stuff in here. Well, we don't have any more cookouts. I built this bench, and basically we haven't had a decent cookout in probably 4 or 5 years, so this is just wasted space right now. So what I'm thinking of doing is to close this in. Close this in with some plywood. Put a stud here and close it in. Trim the edge of this wood so that the plywood will go over the top and down the side. In other words, I'm going to have to cut back this so when I plywood this, it'll go over this and down to about here where my fingers are. Now I'm going to have to sister up another, so I've got his 2x3s, and I'm going to lay them flat like this. That'll bring this out 1.5 inches. This is 2 inches right here, so I got to cut a 1/2 inch off of this here so that when the plywood goes down, it'll go over this. You don't want the plywood to end here, because then when rain gets on it, it's going to rot the end of the plywood, delaminate it, and cause all kinds of problems. Here you'll see a piece of wood that I laid across and made a thing to cover up the tar, because Sammy gets tar on his feet when he goes up there. So and that section was tarred, so this will, if he walks on it, he'll be walking on the plywood. The plywood is basically just set on here, and I just stuck a piece of roofing paper in there temporarily, just in case he gets his feet in there. But anyways, that's what I'm going to do, is I'm going to close all this in. So the plywood's going to come down from here. First I got to build this out with a 2x, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. I picked up some more 2x3s. That's all I need is a 2x3s. And the wood is marked orange over here, orange paint. That means it's $4. This is like, I don't know, a 5 or 6 laminate plywood. This is like almost too good to use for the side of the shed, but it was $4. You know, that stuff's like, I don't know, 27, maybe $28 a sheet or so, I don't know. So together with the other plywood that I've got in this greenhouse, I'm going to use it for the side of the shed. Like I say, it's too damn good to even use for that, but we're going to use it. Alright, so as I said, I got the 2x3. So here's a 2x3, and cut off from some project that I no longer wanted. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2x3 and we're going to nail it on the outside here like this, on each one of these. This has to be brought out so that it'll clear the bottom, so that I can put my plywood down. But as I feel with my fingers, I've got about 3/8 of an inch, maybe 1/2 inch. This is out too far, so I got to trim this back. This is about a 1/2 inch over here, so I'm going to cut back a 1/2 inch of this so that I can put the plywood down over this. That way, when it rains, it'll just go right down the side and not end up here. I mean, I could just as easily put the plywood right against here. I'd be back into about here, about 2 inches in. Plywood would end here, and there'd be all kinds of problems. That's the mistake I made back here. Back here I used flashing that came up to about here, but this is the crappy OSB board, and I had to replace it several years back with regular plywood because you can put your finger through it, it's all rotted. Because even though it had the flashing in here, water would sit here. and it would just wick in here, would just soak this up. This is OSB here, which I'll never use that crap again. And this is regular plywood because I had to replace it. But the reason this is out like this is because this was a metal shed originally, and I simply went over it with well, crappy OSB board, to be honest with you, and added trim and everything. So these, they tell you to build it on a platform, and then, you know, the metal sides would sit about 2 inches in from the edge. It should have had plywood coming right down on the outside like this instead of the flashing. Like I did here when I replaced this, I got the plywood coming right down over it. And this is regular plywood because this here was also OSB, and this was all crappy rotted out too. I replaced this quite a few years ago. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a start now, and it's hard to do a project and videotape too. That's why a lot of times when I do projects, I just go and do them, like I did with the awning project over the back door. Okay, what I gotta try to do here is to work around this tree. It's not easy. And I gotta start with a pocket cut first. It's time consuming to videotape and do the projects too, so that's why a lot of times, like I say, I don't always videotape everything I do. Anyways, I don't know if you can see the line, but I got to cut roughly about a ½ inch off of this. These are holes I had made years ago for little poles that I had before I put this roof over here. We used to have canopy over here. Alright, here we go. This is going to be fun here. What I gotta try to do, I gotta get up in here, but this is very hard to work with this tree here. So this is only a chop saw, not a chop saw, I'm sorry, a trim saw. I bought years ago with a yard sale. So I'm gonna have to hand do this one, so I can get my ass over here and do this. Okay, here we go. This is gonna be fun. I may not be able to get past this pole here. I'll have to do it by hand. Let's see what happens here. Damn it. If I can come out a little bit more. I think I still got room. Being that this is a trim saw, it doesn't cut a full 1.5 inch width. So I got to do this by hand, this section here. But this is only 3/4 inch pressure treated wood anyway, so it's relatively easy to cut. So we'll get my hand saw out and I'll get in there with that. I'm doing a little hand cutting here because I can't get down in there with the trim saw all the way. So I went probably about 3/4 of the way through this. And of course, this is actually, the grain is this way, so this is not a rip saw, so it takes a while. I remember my dad telling me, never force a saw, let the saw do the work. But you know, I can't cut a straight line by hand. The only reason I'm cutting straight here now is because the trim saw went through this 3/4 of the way. If I had to hand saw this, it'd be all over the place. A lot of people say, well, I do good work. Well, it's the tools. If I didn't have these tools, it would be like my dad used to say, the house that Jack built. In this case, the house that Jackass built. As you can see, I just laid this 2x3 over here, and naturally the 2x3 is going to be on the vertical on the side here, and the plywood will come right over. Now this plywood sticks out roughly about 1/4 inch, I mean this flooring rather, so in order to give me a solid place to nail on the lower part of the plywood sheathing, I will put in some 1/4 inch Luan just for a backer against this. As you can see, she's flushed out here. Over here in this corner here, now behind here is a 4x4 from here to here for this door here. This door frame is made with 4x4s. This door will stay here in place. I want to keep that door exactly the way it is, and we're going to, when I get this side all closed in, we're going to box this in, frame it in I should say. It'll be 70 inches tall. Well, was 5'10", I'm shrunk down to 5'9" now, but anyways, there's going to be another door here, a 40-inch wide door. That's a 40-inch wide door made out of double 3/4 inch OSB crap board, which is dry, so I don't have any problem. I'm going to make this door out of 3/4 inch plywood, regular plywood, and I'm not going to use OSB on this. I'll never use that crap again. Actually, I'll have to redo the roof. This is why I won't use OSB. Look at it. It's all soft. It's hardened up a little because it's not raining. Now this has got roofing shingles on it, you know, rolled roofing about 12 years ago, maybe longer. It's all got fungus up there. Put a temporary, I checked to make sure this 2x3 is perfectly straight. Temporary 2x3s here, scrap 2x3s, because this is where I'm going to be bringing it out. So it's flush with this, and it's flush with this, and over here, this is the end of the end 2x3. So I won't have to build this part up. The 2x3 will sit right here, and the sheathing will be nailed here, and it'll clear all this. The only thing it won't clear is this, so I'll have to cut out for this, because it's going to be very hard to cut that. I got the stone here and everything, so I'm not going to try to deal with that. I'm just going to put the angle on it and do that. And with that coming out another 3/4 inch, the rain will still clear the plywood. Alright, I temporarily just tacked this in to make sure she's in the proper place with my marks here, and then I'll drive these number 12s in, because I got to go through this trim here. Now as you can see, I don't need to put any wood here because it's right on the trim, and this 2x3 is straight, so the sheathing will go on the outside of this. Naturally, this piece is just laying in here for a measurement for the angle where I need to come out for this part. So what I'm going to do then, after I get that nailed up, is I'll cut this up, take these temporaries out, and nail them on the flat side, just like this. Nail these on the flat side to go right up to about here, so that there'll be to bring me out 1.5 inches, which I needed to be brought out to in order to put the plywood on. Now because I pre-drilled, of course, into the 2x3, it's going to be a piece of cake nailing this. Okay. Now we're ready to cut the pieces so that I can put them on the flat over here. take the temporaries out. The temporaries out. Measure and cut for the two pieces here. Alright, got these sistered up here on the flat, as I said, and this gives me perfect nailing edge for the plywood. Now what I got to do is to put a little piece in here to bring it out to this flush here, and on the bottom I'm going to use pressure treated 2x4 from here over to here. Like I say, I just have to cut for the angle on this, so the 2x4 will be right out to the end here, even, and even with this it'll lay here, and that'll give me a base plate, so to speak. Alright, I've got some nailers here, sill, pressure treated. That'll flush out, and the plywood, as you can see, when the plywood comes down on there, it'll be a place to nail. I really didn't have to cut very much as I did off this wood on the floor, but that's alright. And if I use this for a nailer here, I won't have to shim this up. Alright, I got a nailer up here all the way across. He has flushed out here. Of course, I didn't have this put on video because I'm busy working and I can't be messing around with the camera. So I videotape what I can. I put the base plates in and everything's flushed out. So I'm all ready for the 2x4 stud, which I'm going to put probably in this area here because the plywood is 48 inches. So we'll have another stud here. This piece here is 48 by 48. Well, 48 will bring me right about in here. We'll take an accurate measure here. So this is where we're going to put it. We're going to have it like this, so she'll be needing a support in the middle here. Now I can take and cut that plywood so it'll fit and end up here, and then continue on with another piece here. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to use the whole sheet. And adding a 2x4 here will make it a little stronger too. I'm going to make that that stud. I'm going to make it out of two 2x4s. These were not as long as I wanted them to be, but they were in the bargain bin for 50 cents a piece. So we're making up a 4x4. So we'll have a good wide nailer. Get another piece of 2x4 because this one ain't quite long enough. Okay, take a measurement and do pre-drilling and nail it. should be. When I get them from the hardware store, sometimes they pick out nails and they're in the open bins, and the guys throw them back in. They're not careful. Customers, that is. Used 12s on the other side by accident. They went through here a little bit. Not a problem, it's just that they can be sharp. Now we got a 4x4. Now we got a good 4x4 here. Alright, I got the 4x4 all ready to be nailed in. The toenail it at the bottom. And we'll nail it through this 2x3 in this way at the top. Well, what I have to do now is to put a 2x to bring it out 1.5 inches so I can nail the plywood to it. I could have brought this all the way out even, but I wanted to leave it that way in case I want to put shelves in there or something. On here, I took some white paint and I hit the edges so that the water hopefully don't delaminate the plywood, because this is, I don't know what kind of plywood this is, but it's multi-layered. It's probably pretty good quality plywood. But we're going to paint this redwood when I get it onto the shed, but I just want to put the oil base paint in here, which is nothing more than just ordinary spray paint from Home Depot. I'll probably hit another coat on that and then put this up. Alright, I got this temporarily held in with clamps down here. It's 3/4 inch plywood and it's pretty heavy. So I'm going to level it off a little bit and try to nail it in there. I'll finish nailing that and come back on this in a little while. Alright. Now, what I did is took some white paint, aerosol, oil-based paint, paint the edges of the plywood to keep the water from getting into it. The whole thing gets painted redwood. And this is 3/4. But it isn't as good a quality wood as this. This was a nice piece here. But it's 3/4. Actually, it needs to come out. It needs to come out. Come in, rather. Just a little bit. The other ones. Yeah, one up here. one more in there. Alright. This plywood here is 3/4, this is 3/4, but this sticks over just a little bit. So this is a little thicker. But I figured I'd put this one on top because this is more of an outdoor plywood, not pressure treated, but you know, the water's going to be more at the bottom than there is at the top, so we'll put the heavier one, the better plywood on the top. Now over here we got to cut a piece out to go down here. Naturally, I haven't got a piece long enough, so I'm going to have to piece it, and then I'm going to put a piece across here so I can butt these two together. On this wall here, if you take a look on the inside, you can see pieces of plywood are pretty well even matched, but I'm going to put a 2x in here like this so I can have a place to nail. It'll also serve as a shelf to put things on, because if I just leave it like this, the plywood might warp a little bit, and then first thing you know, you have an uneven part on the wall. So this will kind of strengthen it up a little bit. Down here, I'm not worried about it because it's such a small, short run that it's okay. It's just over here, depending on the length of wood that I'm going to be, what I have on hand, which I think is going to be 48 inches, maybe not quite that long, and then I'll put a piece in here, and then the other half will go down there. So I'm using all 3/4 inch plywood on the outside, which is what I wanted to do. As you can see here, I angled this. This is the homemade 4x4 that I showed you earlier today on the video. And this block here supports the nailer that I just put up here, as well as this nailer here keeps for the plywood, as I showed you earlier in the video. So let's get to work on this thing. Talking ain't getting the work done. Okay, this piece cost me 50 cents at Home Depot. It's 24 inches by supposedly 48. Now I have two pieces that are like this. For some reason, part of the lamination came off. The rest is good and solid, but this lamination came off here. So naturally I can't use the 48. I'm going to cut that off. You know, if you go and buy a piece of plywood, 3/4 inch, what is it, $27 or so for the CDX? I paid 50 cents for this. I can't complain. So I cut this part off. I don't waste anything. This I'll even use for shim blocks or something. Shim stock, I should say. I'm going to cut it off so we can use it on the side of the shed. Look at that. Brand new piece of plywood here. Sell it back to Home Depot for $3. Make sure I'm not cutting my bench. I have to cut out a little notch here. I already cut one out here to fit in that corner over there. So we're going to cut that now. Okay, you can record. All right, fit it in place and see how she looks. Not bad for a 50-cent piece of wood, huh? Oh no! Alright, we're going to finish nailing this. We'll come back on it in a little while. What I got to do here is put a 2x4 in here to catch these seams here of the two. Probably don't need it because it's not a very big space like this other space I was showing you earlier. But we're probably going to put one in there. But right now we'll just butt up another piece of plywood, and it starts getting too late in the day. We won't be able to do too much. So we'll come back on this. Alright. Now, here is the problem. I don't think I have any more 3/4 inch. I have 1/2 inch. I picked up a bunch of 1/2 inch at Home Depot on the bargain bin. But I don't have a piece. 20 inches. 20 inches by 32, roughly. I'm going to measure it more carefully. I got to go and look for a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. If I don't have it, I'll have to use 1/2. I put the 3/4 on the top anyway, so the 1/2 will be recessed in a little bit when water goes over it. You know, it'll be a seam. Here it's 3/4 when I did this, but I'm pretty sure I don't have any more 3/4, but I'm going to look. Alright, I didn't put this on video, but I painted this, and I used a one of those pads, and it went really quick. Now it's a little darker here because of the spray oil-based paint that I wanted to cover the edges real good. But I'm going to put some caulking in here to fill it in, because you got some big spaces here. You can see some white inside there because that's the white spray paint that I painted on the edges of plywood before I put this on here. So I have to caulk all this, and then after I caulk it, I'll put another coat on. Inside here I made a few shelves to keep my spray stuff, like the WD-40. I'll be bringing all this out once I get the door made and put in. I want to keep this free here. I don't want no shelves in here because when I'm working with the snowblower in the wintertime, I need all the room I can get, and if I put shelves in there, I'm liable to be banging into them and knocking things down. So there'll be just shelves in this area and nothing here because I need to get in here for the doorknob and stuff. I need to get my ugly carcass in there, and I gotta have the room to do it. If I put shelves out to here, I'm gonna have a hell of a time with the door, considering that I'm left-handed. Now, looking at the inside, facing out, I'm going to be putting a door casing in here when I get the extra money to get some. I got to buy some 2x4s. The bargain bin don't have anything long enough, so I got to get some 2x4s, and I'll stud it in here. One here, and then one face this way, the butt up against this. So this is where the doorway is going to be. Over here, I'm going to either use 2 or 3 2x4s and bring it out. So I'm going to have like a 39 or 40 inch door. But as you can see, the ramp, there's no point in having the door way over here. You might as well have the post right here. The snowblower handles are only 24 inches wide. So there's plenty of room even if I made a 36 inch door. This door here is a 39 or 40 inch, as I recall. And it was originally made that wide because I was going to put my riding mower in here, but the base is 42 inches. The mowing deck is 42 inches, so that's why I made that other one you see outside with the tarpaulin on it. So there's no point in making a very wide door here. We'll just come out with a door framing. We'll start here. be a 2x4 here, and the other one will be over here. So we're going to be probably about 37, 38 inches wide, which is plenty for the snowblower. But right now we're going to have to stop because we have no more cash and we have no more wood to make the frame. That's going to take a few bucks because I got to get the wood together to make the door. And I will not use OSB garbage. Now when I built this shed quite a number of years ago, at the time, as I said, I didn't realize OSB was garbage. I made this door out of 2 3/4 inch OSB, which is 1.5 inches thick, nice and heavy. But the problem is when water gets down here, the wood swells up. And it gets very wide down here. You can actually see it if you look closely, and it kind of flares out at the bottom. That was plywood that would either delaminate or it wouldn't, or nothing would happen to it. So when I build this door here, I'm going to use 2 3/4 inch pieces of plywood sandwiched together and glued together, or I'm going to make it out of 2x6. It'll be 1.5 inches thick, and it'll take the hardware necessary to deadbolt and everything else that I need to put on it. Now you notice that overhang there. I did not put that on video, except for tarring the roof and putting shingles on it, because that was a project that I started when Tommy was working. I didn't want to fart around and take out the camera and start videotaping it because it slows me down, and when I want to build something I want to get going on it. Unlike the shed, well, I kind of like I'm not in a hurry for it, and I took my time and decided, well, I'll videotape it. And when Tommy comes home, if there's any more work that I have to do, he can videotape with his camera. And we just edit the whole thing together, like I usually do. So I'll continue on this project when I get the wood, the materials and so forth to build this door. Until then, don't go away, because you never know what projects will be coming up. Hopefully I'll get back on this project real soon. Until then, thank you for watching.